What's going on, troopers? Welcome to the Trooper Transmission. And today we got my man, Scott William, here to talk all things fitness, nerding out. And Scott, it's good to have you, man.
Yeah, good to be here. Thank you.
Awesome. So I can't wait to get into your unique opportunities, we'll call them, speaking specifically to the triplets. But first, let's take it back to what inspired you to join Fit Nerd Academy, and then we'll go from there.
Yeah, I've always had struggles with weight from pretty much my whole life. It was, I did a lot of sports growing up and stuff like that, so it kind of kept it at bay. And then as you get older, it just kind of gets out of hand as your lifestyle changes. Um, but like it really does center around the triplets. I have four kids, a 5-year-old, and then a set of 2-year-old triplets. And it just started really getting out of hand at that point, and I knew I needed help. So I kind of first started, I went to a doctor and I was like, maybe we can do a medication or something like that. Um, Tried a couple, it didn't really work, and then I never thought I would do it and talked to an bariatric surgeon for a little while. I was thinking of doing that route and found out my insurance wouldn't cover it. So then I was like, well, yeah, definitely let's go back to not wanting to do that route. So then I just started looking for little programs that I could do stuff that I could tailor to my weird schedule and just fit it in when I could.
Yeah. And that's an interesting journey too, to where you have a number of different routes where you can either go or you try. And I think kudos to you for just continuing to knock on the door, right? Obviously, you got
Yeah.
those kids who are obviously knocking on your door Saturday morning. But for you and your health and making sure that you were putting that a priority to have energy for them, it sounds like that was really kind of the crux of it. Is like, hey, I want to make sure that I can handle four kids, which is a lot. My mom grew up with four kids in the house, so I can't even imagine what triplets is like.
Yeah. No, definitely. That was the key to want to do it, but then also to ask for help too, which
Hmm.
I think is a big part of it too.
Yeah, absolutely. So as you got either started or you were about to get started, were there any concerns you had as to, maybe how we would approach things, or would this work for you? What was going through your mind as you got started and as you were kind of going in through week one?
Um, I think like the biggest thing that stood out for me, honestly, like before I even talked to you, I found a different program than I talked to them. And it was actually just like a kettlebell workout thing. At first I was just wanting to find like a program and say like, okay, well, like after the kids go to bed, I can do a set of kettlebell workouts or something like that, get some strength training going again. And then it turned out it was like a full on program, somewhat similar to yours, but just focused on only kettlebells. And they were total salesmen about it. Um, and it rubbed me the wrong way that I could tell that they were doing all those sales techniques, like don't let them off the phone call until you get a sale or a commitment. And they were pushing it. And I just didn't like the feeling of that and the way that they approached it. Um, and then a couple days later, um, saw your logo and thought, okay, we'll give it a try. It looks kind of cool. Um, it's cool. I kind of laughed at it, nerdy at the same time. So I thought I'd give it a try. And I appreciated your approach when we first talked about it. And the fact that you were open to tailoring it. You talked about things like, you want to just find something that works for us, whether it's with you or with somebody else. And it was a lot nicer to have not be pushed in that same way. Um, and it just, with my situation and stuff like that, I can't do the normal stuff that a lot of people do. It's got to fit into a weird schedule with, me being pulled with work and the kids and all that other stuff. It's just got to be tailored a little bit differently. And it seemed like this one was going to help with that a lot.
Yeah, definitely. And I think kettlebell exercises are great, but
Yeah.
it is ultimately a method to exercise as opposed to saying like you have to do this. And I'll say this till I'm blue in the face, but only the Sith deal in absolutes. And
Yep.
it's the throwaway line in Star Wars, but I also think that, anyone watching, if you're like, oh, I have to do this specific thing, you know, there are many ways to approach principles and principles of movement and principles of nutrition really won't change, just how you want to go about it and ultimately what worked for you. So I'm glad that you're able to find something that fit around your schedule and how your body moved and what you needed to do. What would you say some of the biggest wins or even just lessons that you've learned have been over the last 4 or 5 months that either you had to be reminded of and you already knew, or you were like, oh, wow, this is a whole new perspective or a whole new approach?
I'd say another unique thing with me is like I work as a nurse practitioner in like primary care. So I'm dealing with patients all day and dealing with their overall health. I've got a lot of patients that I'm talking to them about their weight loss and some of them prescribing medications, some of them just trying to get them off of that and do overall health stuff. So in a way I've had a lot of that training. With nutrition, it's just basic stuff. It didn't get real deep, but it backs up all that stuff that I've learned before. It backs up all that stuff that I tell my patients every day. And it helps me to be able to say different things to them and say, this is what I'm doing, and it's working so far. If I really believe it, if I'm really going to preach this to my patients, then I got to do it myself.
Mm,
And I've been able to prove that so far.
yeah, definitely. What have been some of the biggest changes or wins that you've noticed since getting started?
Uh, it, it overall mindset, like just different times that I tried it, like I kind of think of it as like I got caught in the dieting trap, um, where you have like I always knew that I needed to lose a lot of weight, and that for it to stay off, I had to make dietary changes that were lasting and sustainable. But I always got caught in the trap of like, well, do the first thing where you lose a lot, and then you can get momentum, and then at some point you make those lasting changes so you can keep it off. And then the trap is, you don't when you don't do it right at first, it's hard to be successful in the long run. You might lose a lot, but then you don't have those tools to keep it off or to keep going. And I think it just realizing that that's a trap and to getting the right way to do it at first, it may, maybe it's a little bit longer, maybe it's not, but it's the right way to do it. And you're building those skills as you start that you're going to need from here on out.
Yeah, definitely. One of the most impactful Instagram memes I've ever seen. And normally Instagram memes aren't that impactful. It's just people throwing together a sentence to try and motivate you. But this yoga studio in New York had a post that basically just said, hard work is the shortcut. And there's been different points in my life, and I see so many times with hundreds of clients where they're, looking for those different quick fixes, or this is the magic bullet. And all the time spent, and this is again a lesson that I was taking away, is all the time I've spent trying to find that magic bullet. Had I just done the hard work, I would already be there. It's,
Yeah.
it's like, hey, here's how you get from Seattle to Los Angeles. You take I-5, and you're like, there's probably a quicker way. They're not telling me. I'm going to go and try and find it. And 5 days later, you're in Utah, and you're like, yep, I should have just taken I-5, and
Yeah.
you would already be there. So, yeah, thanks for indulging my analogies. So, um, for someone either in a similar position as you, or maybe you're talking to your younger self or a younger brother, what would be your three keys to success and the things that you find helps you be successful and that will help you continue to be successful in the future?
The biggest thing I keep on talking about is the mindset, the proper mindset of just sticking with it. You're going to start it in the right way and then know that things are going to come up and be able to roll with the punches and get back on track as soon as possible. It's a part of life, it's a part of everything that happens. And it's a journey, it's a marathon, it's not a race. Those are all things that I keep on repeating to myself. And then that way, when the scale gets a little weird at times or stubborn, then you can make it through those things. Um, Having a good support system has been huge. My wife's actually lost about the same amount of weight, if not a couple pounds more than I have. Just trying to do the same type of things that I've been doing. And she doesn't have nearly as much to lose as I do. But it's been a good thing for both of us and a good support system there. And just, finding whatever accountability you can. I mean, with us, it's a scale and reporting to you and the community that we have and stuff like that. And that helps me, but finding something like that that you can report to and go to and have some sort of accountability, I think has been big that I didn't want necessarily, but I knew I needed. So that kind of got me to get on this.
Yeah. Awesome. So to recap, it's the mindset shifts, it's the support system. I didn't know about that about your wife. That's incredible. And
Yeah, she's done awesome.
I'll work with a lot of like dads and husbands, and I've started to hear that more and more where they're like, "Yeah, my wife lost 15 pounds as well." And I'm like, "Holy cow." And it just kind of goes to show one, I think this is kind of a cool thing is when you say, "Hey, here's the path that I'm going," right? And you're doing this for the family's going to follow that. And then, bam, you're being the leader. People are seeing change as well. But when you have that dynamic of inspiration, it creates this flywheel where like your local community and your household is motivating, inspiring you. And then we've got the larger community of people all over to support you. And then obviously we're here as coaches in your pocket to keep you going. And so accountability, the support, community, and then yeah, mindset. That's great.
Yep.
Any final words or just kind of maybe words of encouragement for anyone starting this journey if they're like, oh my gosh, I got such a hill to climb, like what would you say to them, or just words of encouragement in general?
It's kind of there's no perfect time to do it. You just get started and get the process. And if you start it off right, then you're going to be all the better in the long run. Build the tools now that you need in the end and just start the process and go through it.
Yep, no perfect time. I love it. Well, Scott, thank you so much for the time and the wisdom, and we're eager to watch your career with great interest as you continue to move through the academy. Thank you.
All right. Thank you.